The original trilogy, and I couldn't help myself. I had to talk about all of them. The original trilogy, the story of a young man who grew up on a desert planet and fell in love with his sister. Also, something dark side, and surprise, surprise, an absentee father. Our story opens with a menacing figure in black and a defiant princess all in white. Star Wars, of course, never did do subtle well. And then there are droids, one of whom only beeps at you, which is charming early and then becomes progressively more irritating. Finally, we meet our hero Luke Skywalker, whose dad Anakin Skywalker, um, but Daddy Anakin could never figure out how to use the internet search engines, so he never looked up his kid, which means no child support payments coming in, or even birthday cards with 5 credits in them. Too bad. From there, we meet a roguish Han Solo and the Wookiee Chewbacca. Bad guy then blows up an entire planet, which is genocide, but the gravity of the situation is simply explained away as disturbance in the Force. And the evil Darth Vader, despite committing genocide, is still allowed on the Muppet Show. Later, weird old guy who looks embarrassed to be in these movies sacrifices himself. Princess is rescued, which is supposed to feel like a triumph, but again, we've already seen some genocide. The Death Star is then blown up, boy kisses his sister, and an entire subgenre of Pornhub is created. What else happens? Sister begins shunning brother's advances for the guy who probably treats women horribly despite being super cool. Brother learns to lift more things with his mind after meeting a tiny alien with poor manners who probably doesn't bathe and smells like swamp. Cool guys then frozen in carbonite. Bad guys pretty much win the entire second movie. The end of Empire Strikes Back. The third movie opens with the sister character wearing a metal bikini in an attempt to rescue her boyfriend. The metal bikini, though, inspires her brother to finally stop being a whiny brat and do some cool Jedi stuff. Brother then goes to confront dad over being abandoned as a child and to argue there's still good in you, even after dad killed billions of people. Galactic Empire is then brought down by a race of furry people with spears, only marginally smarter than my cat. Dad attempts to redeem himself and then appears as a force ghost with a bunch of people who know he killed dozens of children just 20 years prior. Awesome. By the way, the cassette story version of Return of the Jedi owned as a child makes no mention of Han and Leia's love story and subtly implies that Leia and Luke are still likely to shack up. On to the prequels, the second trilogy, which can be summed up as boy falls in love with his babysitter and takes it all way too seriously, living the fantasy that fourth grade me had involving a girl named Julie, who was my babysitter on Wednesday nights. And
You knew that was
in the first movie, we made a baby Darth Vader who is a really unlikable little turd. The movie really wants you to think this kid is a plucky little hero, but I can't help but think in 30 years he will commit genocide and kill Jimmy Smits. Also, we find out that Darth Vader built C-3PO, but creator and creation never acknowledged this dynamic in the earlier films. And oh, Jar Jar Binks, low-hanging fruit for someone who wants to tell Star Wars jokes. Let's just say that I think Jar Jar sucks and is probably secretly a Sith Lord. Somehow, this first series of movie hangs on the premise that Anakin Skywalker will bring balance to the Force. But I want you to think about that for a second. When the movie starts, there are at least dozens of light side Force users and 1 or 2 Jedis who play around with the dark side. The only way to balance this out is to kill a whole bunch of good Jedis. Why would anyone be excited about this prophecy or want to fulfill it? Yoda, Mace Windu, anyone else who has a name on the Jedi Council? All stupid. This first film is entirely skippable and is only watchable because Darth Maul is cool looking and we get the best lightsaber battle of the entire series. In the next movie, the babysitter and the babysitted chosen one begin a clandestine love affair that has all the chemistry and passion of washing a pair of socks. Love-struck Anakin also thinks this line will get him some Padme boob and butt. I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere. Not like here, everything is soft and smooth. George Lucas, master of dialogue. Yoda then has a lightsaber fight with Lord Summerisle himself, Christopher Lee. This is awesome. In the third movie, we finally get some evil going after a too long first hour, and then the whole trilogy ends with Natalie Portman dying of a broken heart. Hyperdrives and fully functioning robotic arms exist in this universe, but no one can cure a broken heart. What them? And Vader's children are then hidden in the most obvious places in the royal court at Alderaan, the Emperor's biggest political enemy, and with Vader's uncle and aunt. This is like hiding money in your wallet. No one would ever look there. Also, the last moments of this movie occurred just 17 years before the start of the original Star Wars movie, and during that time, everyone ages at an accelerated rate, with the exception of Jimmy Smits, who is eternal. Obi-Wan Kenobi goes from being a dashing young man to a very old man who then dies at the ripe old age of 38. Great job, George Lucas. And now to the sequel, 7, 8, and 9, and the end of Courtney and I's friendship. Imagine the crappiest piece of poop you've ever encountered, and then imagine adding more crap to that poop to make it even turdier. This is how I describe the sequels. Not sorry, Courtney. At the end of Return of the Jedi, you leave the movie feeling triumphant. The Empire has been defeated. The Emperor is dead. Han and Leia will be in love forever. Luke will help create a whole new group of Jedi who will bring peace to the galaxy. Within 20 minutes of The Force Awakens, you find out that the Empire is doing just fine. Leia and Han are divorced, and Luke has disappeared and didn't leave his ex-girlfriend and sister a forwarding address. Seriously, why did the original trilogy even exist at all if it was all just going to be undone in a generation? Also, all of the things you liked about Star Wars, they just run back. Death Star? How about an extreme Death Star? This one blows up stars. Cool, right? Aren't there new stories to tell? The only saving grace are some interesting new characters they refuse to do interesting things with. There's Finn, an ex-stormtrooper, and Rey, who we think will turn out to be like Han Solo, and then we find out that she's a Jedi, and that's pretty cool. But the movie is lazy and derivative and full of J.J. Abrams mystery box nonsense. Luke left us a map so we can find him? How clever, and not at all how a real human being would act. In the first two sets of movies, you have some pretty clear bad guys. Darth Vader, Palpatine, those that work for Palpatine. In the sequels, there's Supreme Leader Snoke, who just dies in the second movie without any real explanation. Emo Vader, who has a helmet but not a disfigured face, so he doesn't wear the helmet much, but it probably sells toys. And then out of nowhere in the third movie, the Emperor has returned, further ruining the ending of Return of the Jedi and making Vader's sacrifice meaningless. In other words, Kylo Ren and Snoke and all the bad guys are, thrown away until suddenly here's the Emperor again. Also, while resting for 30 years, the Emperor has been making dozens of Star Destroyers, each of which is the size of Delaware. A Star Destroyer initiative would cost trillions of dollars and employ thousands of people and droids. No one noticed this activity. And remember that one guy who hasn't been in all the sequels yet? Just so no one throws tomatoes at J.J. Abrams, there's Lando Calrissian. Nostalgia. Works every time. And just like Jedi, we get a giant space battle and a lightsaber duel, and the bad guy of the film then sacrifices himself for the greater good. Been there, done that, rinse and repeat. And we only get there after an hour and a half of mystery box nonsense. I miss movies about brothers and sisters falling in love and a guy trying to shag his babysitter. Say what you want about the prequels, but Lucas had a story to tell. Summing up, the original trilogy, lots of fun with incest vibes. The prequels, mostly forgettable unless you lusted after your babysitter. But Revenge of the Sith is my favorite movie in the franchise. And then the sequels, pure awfulness that doesn't tell a coherent story. Rey, Finn, and Rose deserved better. Yes. Yeah, I know. It was fun. All right.
There was a quick second where I was like, you know what? I'll have to apologize because Jason, that was great, and I was laughing and I was enjoying it. And then you were like, you know what, Courtney? I actually hate you, and I never want to talk to you again. So let me just shove your head in the toilet and flush it. So now we're fighting.